Be your everyday definition of the criminally insane, but what else would you call it when this exists just across the street? Or across the country? Or across the border? Or across the world? We started this film by asking what's wrong with the world, and we ended up discovering what's right with it. The science of connection and unity, the universal nature of compassion and empathy, the mystery and magic of the human heart. When G.K. Chesterton was asked by the London Times to enter an essay contest and answer that same question, what's wrong with the world? He wrote the following: "Dear Sirs, I am." And in response to his response, I write, "Dear GK, bingo." Howard Zinn says, you can't be neutral on a moving train. And it's true, none of us are neutral. We all cast our vote each day by what we do and what we don't do. And yes, the moving trains today are still hunger, human rights, war, and the devastation of the natural world. But there's another moving train. It's the new world that's being born. John Francis sees it coming. So does Mark Ian Barish, Elizabeth Sattouris, Lynn McTaggart, Dacher Keltner, Tom Hartman, and yep, even me. And here's the good news for all of you on that moving train. There's no such thing as a tiny act. The way you greet someone, the joy you experience in nature, with family, friends, and strangers, it all matters. The science is clear. Each of us and 100 trillion crazy, weird, miraculous cells that make us up really do have the power to change the world. When I was facing death, I wanted to tell you what I know. This is it, that all things are connected and one. And as long as we treat each other, even our enemies, as separate, we'll continue to have exactly the same world that we have. There is a way out of this, and it's also shorter than G.K. Chesterton's letter. Now, that's not utopian. It's real. It's scientific. It's in our DNA. So now I ask one more question. What's right with the world? Here's to the hope that one day we can all answer that the same way.
So this is a clip from the movie I Am. The movie Tom Shadyac, I think that's how you say his name, made it. He was actually a Hollywood producer. He made Liar Liar and Ace Ventura. He made those movies. And he had an accident, had a concussion, and almost died. And he completely changed his life. He made this movie. That's just the last little bit of it. It's a great long movie. It's really worth watching. We watched it this Wednesday in watching our new movie book club. And he changed his life so much that he ended up giving away all his money and making a different kind of movie. So. Now, I called this talk today The Science of Caring because I think it's really interesting that there's a lot of science, social sciences, a lot of scientists studying how people can be happy and what makes us healthy and happy and live long and all that. And there's a lot of science that says that caring is really good for us. It's as good as kale. Okay, it's better than kale because apparently some people do not enjoy kale the way I enjoy kale. Caring is remarkable for us. Just watching that movie and opening your heart a little bit when you saw the guy lying on the street with his feet all wrecked, or the baby, or any of those things of people who need it. Just opening your heart a little bit is actually good for you and me. Now, I started off this talk researching about happiness. And an interesting fact about happiness is probably the best way to be more productive is to just be happier. Happier people accomplish more. So if in the beginning of the new year, you feel like you want to get a little energy going and accomplish more with your life, how surprising. Actual being happy is going to make you more productive. Isn't that a nice byproduct? And I decided to narrow down my research because there's a lot of interesting things about what makes you happy. Caring for people makes you happy, and helping others makes you happy. So I'm going to give you some science about this that I found. Then I'm going to give you the unity twist. So starting with the science, how about this? 100 hours a year is the magic number. From an article online from www.inc.com. How about this? One of the most interesting facts about making yourself happier is that you should help others. And in fact, the people who wrote this study, 100 hours per year, that's 2 hours a week, is the optimal time we should dedicate to helping others. Yep. It's interesting to note the optimal time, 2 hours a week, because you don't actually want to overwhelm yourself, I guess, and never help yourself. So help someone today. It will make you happier and more productive. Eric Barker, who's a productivity writer, his topic is not happiness, it's productivity. He interviewed Wharton Business School professor Adam Grant. And Adam Grant wrote a book called Give and Take. And how about this? The people who help others out consistently not only feel happier, but they are actually more successful. He was really surprised to discover that in the spectrum of people who were successful, it's the givers who are mostly at the highest part of success, And I'm not going to be technical and tell you all what they measured and everything. You can look all that stuff up your own, because you all have computers. The people who consistently are looking for ways to help others are overrepresented at the most success. There's only a slight problem. Sometimes helping others seems like it might be a huge task. How can we approach it so it doesn't eat up everything you do? Well, here's one suggestion. The 5-minute factor. Do something for a friend or a stranger for 5 minutes every day. Think of something you could do for 5 minutes. What if I just took a couple of minutes every day to help someone? What if you, and this is something that I decided I would try this year, because I haven't done it. I don't walk around a lot downtown, so I don't run into homeless people who are asking for money. And there's not really, of all the places I've lived, there's not a ton of that in Des Moines. I haven't noticed a ton of it. But there are a few corners. And what I thought was that I'd get a bunch of dollars and keep them in my car. Because now, and it doesn't mean you have to give to every time somebody asks, but here's something you could do. You could look the person in the eye. It makes me feel very uncomfortable when I see somebody who's asking for money and they're homeless. I feel very, very uncomfortable. But maybe the kindest thing we can do is to look at them and say hi, whether or not we give them $1. That's even less than 5 minutes. That's probably 30 seconds. But it's a huge thing, and it's a huge difference, And actually, I realize that I would probably be more comfortable looking them in the eye and saying, hi, I've had $1, because I can afford $1. I could probably afford $10 every day. To people who are homeless and hungry and need. Being homeless is one of the scariest things for me. Being homeless now scares the whatever out of me. The thought of being homeless in weather like this just freaks me out. I would hate it more than anything. Well, I might hate jail more, but I would really hate that. So, but so I'm suggesting that that's a way you could do something for a stranger. You could also, we all know about talking to people when they're helping us at the store, smiling at the person who's helping us. Just taking a minute, that really works. That's a kindness. Now, here's another author who was writing about giving. This is from the Journal of Happiness Studies. When researchers interviewed more than 150 people about their recent purchases, they found that money spent on activities such as concerts and group dinners out brought far more pleasure than material purchases like shoes, television, or expensive watches. Okay, I'm going to take this a little further. So spending money on other people, called pro-social spending, boosts happiness. So you're going to help, to be more happy. In a way, you're giving the gift of yourself if you go out with friends, going out to a movie or to a concert or anything like that with somebody. That actually people are more satisfied. That you like going out with people more than you like your new boots. Okay? It's more satisfying. That you like doing things with people. Now there's also, here's a really interesting part. So then there's a feedback loop, and in the Journal of Happiness Studies, because they like to sit around and do stuff, they had people come in and they interviewed people before they purchased something. Here it goes. They asked people to recall a previous purchase. Think of a purchase you made either for yourself or someone else, and then report your happiness. Then the participants chose whether to spend a windfall on themselves or someone else. So the participants assigned to recall a purchase made for someone else reported feeling significantly happier immediately after this recollection. Most importantly, the happier participants felt, the more likely they were to choose and spend a windfall on someone else in the near future. Thus, by providing initial evidence for a positive feedback loop between pro-social spending and well-being, this data offers one potential path to sustainable happiness. Whoa! Pro-social spending increases happiness, which in turn encourages pro-social spending. So basically, when people thought about, even just thinking about, you made a purchase, think of something you did for somebody else. And then you're more likely to do it again, which is more likely to keep you being happy. So obviously you should buy some presents today for people. And you should make them concert tickets or movie tickets or something like that. And then you keep remembering that and you keep doing that. So isn't that interesting, the science of giving, that giving gives you the most happiness? And everybody here, we can all think about Christmas, because we just had Christmas. Was your best Christmas gift one you got or one you gave? It was probably one that you gave. It makes us happier to think about the perfect present we got that so-and-so just loved, or that we made, or, the homemade whatever. It's just, all those things. It's like actually the giving, it is as the scientists, we're hardwired for that. We're hardwired for giving. So I think I have one more science to say, then I have a little unity stuff to say. This is about volunteering. There was a study of volunteering in Germany, and apparently right after the fall of the Berlin Wall, but before the German reunion, things were really interrupted there. And the normal social order was just not happening. So a lot of people who had regular volunteer jobs or volunteer places they showed up were interrupted from that. And things like sports clubs and people randomly lost their opportunities for volunteering. So then they did a study on the comparison, and that the people who lost their volunteering opportunity were consistently and significantly less happy. They didn't have that opportunity in their lives before they got it going again. Like it was a big hole in their lives not to do that. So scientists have found that here's the way they say that, doing a kindness produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any exercise we have ever tested. That's a big deal. The single most reliable thing. Doing a kindness. I couldn't think of a better verb. It didn't seem right, but okay. Being kind, I would say, completing an act of kindness or engaging in an act of kindness. That feels better to me grammatically. Engaging in an act of kindness is the single thing that will make you happier than anything. And the other thing I want to talk about a little bit is that whole thing about 100 hours a year. Now, I was really grappling with this because I was thinking, well, I don't know if I volunteer 100 hours a year. And then I realized that in Unity, we have a belief that focuses a little bit more on intention. And I would say in Unity, we have a teaching that says that everything you do can be done as if you're engaging in an act of kindness. Like showing up for work, you can have the attitude. My very first job, I thought, I was 18 and I had a gap year. My very first job was a job where I had a time clock. It was the Seattle Credit Bureau. I worked there for a year. I clocked in, and then I had my eye on that clock till I got my 15-minute morning break, and then I got my 15-minute morning break. Then I had my eye on that clock till I got my half-an-hour lunch. Then I got my half-an-hour lunch. After lunch, I was waiting for the afternoon 15-minute break. And then I waited for 5 o'clock. And I was not wise. At the time, I said, oh, I better get myself back to school because this is not fun. And, then I went and got myself an art degree, which was so practical. Anyway, the thing that I would never do now is live from break to lunch to break. I would be able to enjoy that job a lot more. Even that job, Seattle Credit Bureau, it was boring. There was some fun in it. I mean, it was a little boring, and I've since learned that my skills lie in other fields. But that's like death to me. To live, to have spent that year like that was a really awesome wake-up call. I didn't really learn about the best wake-up call till maybe later on when I started doing spiritual work. That it didn't really matter where I was. What mattered was the way I was living that job. I was living that job as if I hated every minute. But we know that we can live our life differently. We can live our life as if we are engaging in kindness for every single thing. Because excuse me, but let us include ourselves in engaging in kindness. Include ourselves. Now, there's some people who automatically give. A couple of them are in this room. I'm just going to have to use Deb for an example, because Deb it's like she doesn't, it's just her way of being. If you ask Deb for something, I don't think she has the word, well, I don't mean she's like a doormat, but it's like she just wouldn't say no, because it's like, oh yeah, do you want that? Let's do that. And she also has a lot of fun because she goes out all the time. That woman is painting the town red almost every night. It's kind of a miracle she makes it in here on Sunday morning. But she's just like a beautiful example to me of somebody who she lives her whole life that way. So everything she does is a gift. Like, there is no difference for her between showing up to work for herself or showing up for you or going grocery shopping or whatever it is. It's like that's how she is. You know, she just does that. And I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there yet. But I'm a lot better off than when I was, living that life at the Seattle Credit Bureau. So that, to me, this is the unity secret about that. Like, so do you volunteer 100 hours a year or not? Maybe if you're, at a certain level of consciousness, there's a huge difference between your work and your volunteer. I'm saying that people who are on the spiritual path, that it's kind of all the same. It depends on how your heart is giving. You can show up for love and show up at work with love in your heart and get paid a lot of money, and it's going to make you as happy as showing up at the food kitchen, because you're giving of yourself, and you're making things better by showing up, by being your whole self with an open heart and love. Now, mind you, just to say, in case you really like that 100-hour deal with volunteering, I have a list of things you can volunteer at. And it's not just here at church. It's not just here at church. If you really want to go, if you feel like you need a boost and you want to volunteer someplace, I can help you with that. There's tons of places to volunteer, not just at church. I know lots of places. So, everybody, I want to say, you guys are the lights, and I know that even by coming here, or say especially by coming here and just showing up with your heart open, you contribute. So let's take an offering for unity.